country. And I think we shall extrapolate more about this as we advance in this conversation. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mugisha, for that. And I think you talk about so many young people, not just Bosa here, so many young people, even within the ruling party or any other political party, that feel they should not speak. When you speak the truth, perhaps you're being loud, you're being too loud. And sometimes, of course, forces will sabotage your interests or even your progress within that same political party that you think you can make a contribution to, or that you believe in the ideas that they put on table. Bosa, to get to you, I want us to talk about commercialization of politics. And when I talk about commercialization of politics, it gets tough because I think this is a vice that keeps growing year in, year out. And why? Because we are not bold enough to speak up against it, not just speaking up against it, but even acting against it. Because today, one Bosa will come and say, commercialization, it is becoming too much. But when a voter comes tomorrow, perhaps Bosa will receive the 200K and all that will be put to waste. From your perspective, and again from the National Unity platform that you do subscribe to, is there commercialization of politics, especially for young people?
I thank you so much, Tracy. I think, fortunately or unfortunately, money, for me, well, Mazi will say message is very important in an election.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, in the current National Youth Council elections that are happening, I've seen quite a number of the candidates are my friends. They have very beautiful messages. And I want us to be very honest with each other, Mazi, that the stronger candidates in that race are not because they have a better message. I'll tell you, I don't know even what they are saying, but I know. But a particular candidate has more money than the other one.
Yes.
The particular candidate is looking after his voters better than
the others.
One. And that factor is making one candidate stronger than the other. Whereas some people might have good messages, other people have more money. That is something that we must agree on from the very onset. Money is very important. We're at a stage, and I think Tracy, you marry the topics very well: commercialization and patronage. Who gets to give you the money? In most cases, it's that person who hopes to have leverage on you or the things you're going to do in future. My issue with commercialization is that, and it's very dangerous. Fortunately or unfortunately, one, it unevens the ground for standing.
Yes.
Because there's some candidates who don't have that money, yeah? But also, the ones who have are going to benefit. But it raises a number of questions. You see, Ankonda, you realize that at the end of the day, the loophole in commercialization of politics in Uganda today is that we don't get to question ourselves of the important question of where do they get the money?
That's an important one, yes.
Where do they get the money? Like, guys are putting exorbitant amounts of money. They do not have recognized sources of income. Yeah? And they have the money. Yeah? I think the question we should be asking ourselves, and it goes to accountability, financial accountability as a country, and you ask yourself, where is this person going, getting the money? Sit down and ask that particular person. I think for me, when we ask that question, we can be able to curtail, because if someone is not able to account for where they get the money, it either means there is some abuse of office somewhere, there's corruption happening somewhere, or there is non-accountability. But also, as an effect, you realize that when voters allow a candidate to come into a political space or stand for a position and they ask for money, at the end of the day, you turn elective positions into financial transaction, profit-making businesses. Because if I have to put 800 million in an election, I hope to get that money back. Up until then, you as a voter, you have nothing to tell me. I think commercialization of politics is a blanket for idealism, is a blanket for service delivery. It's a blanket, it blinds civic duty in a country. So, like it or not, government or opposition, I will tell you that at the end of the day, even the people who look up to me, if someone comes to me asking that I support them or I lead their campaign, I'm going to ask them, where are we getting the money? I just need the money on table at the end of the day. Because the voters are going to ask for this money. The reason why I specialize in popular votes is because popular votes, the extent as to which voters ask for money is limited. But college votes, you're dealing with people who have won their races, they perhaps also want to get back their money. It is dangerous in and of itself to the candidate, because the candidate, if they don't have where to get money, they're going to end up getting loans. We have seen very many ruckuses. I imagine you've seen MPs being taken to prison, those moneylanders or moneylanders corridors of parliament, demanding for money. One moment we even saw the Speaker of Parliament complaining that you guys are not paying your moneylander. So on the candidate, it is costly. It sends a very bad image. But also secondly, on the voters, blind civic duty, like there's nothing you're going to benefit from that particular candidate. So whether it is opposition, whether it is where, any campaign is supposed to be run on money. But it is unfortunate, fortunately or unfortunate, that a candidate is going to come. Fortunately or unfortunately, a candidate is going to end up better than the other because of money, and the message is going to be blinded, and we shall not find a way to find or demand accountability from that particular candidate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bosa, for that. And I think you also bring it out well, especially in terms of we need the money, but how much money do we need? Because I feel like much as some of the people are able to get the money, is it worth it? Harriet.
Yes, please.
Bosa was questioning the sources of this money. But however, a certain individual X is going to tell you, my father has the money, we have the cows, we have industries, we have this and that. And my father is willing to actually pick a portion, 1 billion, 2 billion, to invest it in my race. And the person will tell you, and it is not my problem that perhaps maybe I'm born in this family. Now, when you talk about politics becoming transactional, is it worth it? Whether you have the money, whether you do not have the money. And what do you think are some of those basics? Because you cannot tell me that you're going to run an election completely on just talking. At least you need some water for the voters, at least you need some media and everything. To what extent, or to what estimation do you think this is termed relatively affordable or relatively inclusive for everyone to participate?
Thank you so much, Ms. Ankonda. There is a question that has so much been running in my mind. At what point did we get to this? I've so much been pondering in my head, and I'm asking myself, but at what point did we get to this? Who decided that for one to be capable of leading people, they must be, having those huge sums of money? Who decided? Who said, I cannot actually, because I agree with you that one really can not only make a campaign based of talking. I am in total agreement, because at one point you might want to move out and see these people, and that costs one transport. You might, small transactions here and there, but what we are terming as water currently, guys, I don't think that is water. Recently, I was in Kololo when the second and NYC campaigns were happening. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I was rallying behind a candidate who is
They had
just
the money?
as myself, very young. And I'm asking myself, but these guys are as young as ourselves. Where do they really think a recent graduate has that much amount of money to you know,
But
give
there
to
are
them?
recent graduates who actually have that money. They were there at Kololo.
Good Lord. I am asking myself, at what point did we get to this? And if we don't get to actually sit ourselves down and ask ourselves important questions, I think that we are headed for doom as a nation. Because I believe that the mantle is really in our hands as youths, but we are tending to shun away from what should be our responsibility. We are choosing to play a part in the jubilations of our parents. They are living in their futures. I get to tell myself that maybe the likes of our patrons, see, as a musical student, I'm speaking of music, the likes of our patrons, most of these political idols that we have, this is what they thought their future would look like. They thought they would have those huge sums of money and, you know, they would hoard power for infinity. That was their picture of the future. But I'm asking myself, what gets into our minds as youths when we think of what our future should look like? Do we actually want to take it on this way that it is going? Because I don't think I want to be part of this. Where it is headed, I don't want to be part of it. I am very afraid as a youth, and it is even more worrying that my fellow youths cannot see what they're supposed to be seeing. It is very worrying when you see these people that have worked for their money and now they have it to dispense, to buy votes, and you're thinking that as a youth, you should also be lobbying to have that much money. Are you really? Because I think at this point, youths should be thinking much more inclined towards sustainability. They should be thinking about, you know, 20 years from now, 50 years from now. But they are playing party in cocoons of people who do not see themselves in 10 years from now alive, for example. So I think this question of commercialization of politics should be a very worrying topic for youths. We should sit down and ponder so much, like so hard, on where do we actually want this to go on? Is this actually supposed to be the rubric on which we determine who is supposed to lead us? Should money actually be the tool that is a decisive arbiter for who is supposed to lead us? Because I do not think that good leadership is actually vested in, you know, monies and what. I believe there is poor good leaders. I totally believe that. And I do not think really that we should close our eyes to reality this much. It has become a habit that people don't want to discuss what should be discussed. We are tending to run away. We would rather coward out and benefit off those that have than address the real matter. I don't think it should be moving that way. Yes. So if you asked me as a youth, I am very worried because I am thinking, for example, that I would be a good leader, but I do not have money. Every other time I think of I should contest in maybe 2031, the thought of money comes into my mind. Yes. I am like, will I be having money? And then the other thing I think should be worrying us as the community generally now, youths aside. At what point did we come to this?
Interesting.
At what point did we come to this?
I think you have stretched that enough. At what point? And I feel like it is ringing in my mind as well. At what point did we get into this?
And is this actually what we want for ourselves?
Thank you, thank you. Emanzi.
Yes, please.
Partly, one of the reasons I have interacted with a few people here and there is that people join electoral processes or positions to earn money. Now, I want you to make a comment on the question of the kind of leadership that we have. But also, very many other young people are going to tell you, I am unemployed. And because I'm unemployed, I'm going to invest 100K in this race and hope to get 1 million or even 2 million to be able to buy 3 or 4 goats. That is if actually what they're saying is the truth. So to draw the nexus between leadership, but also in terms of youth economic empowerment vis-a-vis the political environment and participation that young people partake. Yes.
We have been, unfortunately, twisted into a situation where for you to make it, you have to have a solid financial standpoint, but also for you to be heard, you have to subscribe to a person who has a standing in society, mostly financial, not ideological. And I think that is where the problem is.
Yes.
Because for young people, like my sister was mentioning here, when did we get to this? Do you realize that we, the young people, we are now eating the dust that was, you know, what's the word? English word? Sometimes. But you get what I'm saying, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, some people start up the dust, they leave, but for them they're immune. For us, we come bump into it. Before you know it, we are struggling with it, with all these other things. I use dust as an analogy because you can't run away from it. Once you're in it, even if you have personal differences, so that is when we get to a point, and now we ask the question of what she was mentioning. Is this what we want for ourselves as the young people of Uganda? I many a time do not want to use the Ugandan context exclusively because it's very fragmented, you know. But as we speak with the voice of the African youth, because we know the actions of the young people in one part of Africa, if they resonate with the other people, young people of Africa, somehow the wave catches. There is some magic that is happening. I don't know if you've noticed this in the last couple of years. When the young people in the Maghreb region, in those Arab countries, started their revolutions, right? It caught from one country to the other. It had a cascading effect. I'm not calling for that, but I'm trying to use that as an example to show you that when young people get to a frustration tipping point, right?
Yes.
What comes thereafter is something many governments cannot handle. And now the fact that the young people are asking themselves that same question of when did we get to this point? And are we just going to sit and lament? Of course the answer is no. So here is my 2 cents. For the young people in Uganda to, should I use the word equivocally, participate in a highly commercialized political spectrum, one, you also have to have a financial backing. And like you mentioned, in a very closed-off economy, with youth unemployment staggering at 68% as by reports from the Uganda National Bureau of Statistics, that's worrying. But also it shows you that now more people are looking for avenues of income. And when you look at the leadership or the politics of Uganda, the moment, in the first month of members of parliament, local government leaders, their first month, many a time, is the time they use to fast kwetereza. The kwetereza is, they're talking about their remuneration, their facilitation, per diem, and, things to make them comfortable, which is not a crime in itself, right?
Yes.
But also it has a reflective perspective to it. Because in my opinion, I would think that the first month of power, catching power, that is when you still have the fire. The inertia is still up. I would expect under the first month or the first 100 days for a political party, a political group, say a caucus in parliament, that is the time they will have to come out with the policies or the to-do that they're going to run with. But do we witness that? We don't. We witness the opposite, which is indicative of our society. Personally, I do not blame our politicians and our MPs and Sijinini. Why? Because what they do where they are is reflective of us who send them there. You get what I'm saying? So And I want to assure you on national TV that it is not in the interests of the powers that be for the young people to be empowered, whichever way of empowerment, where they will actually start asking questions like, how did we get here? And because of that, that is why we do not have, we are not having any electoral reform directly talking about the aspect of commercialization in politics, because the Electoral Commission, with the powers from the parliament, it has the capacity to put a cap on how much a person can spend on every threshold of leadership position they're going for. Two, it still has the power, constitutional, to one, audit the source of income and also verify, among other things. Now, these things are what happens in what we were mentioning earlier, a functional democracy. But because our democracy is still at an infancy stage, that's where we see many of these loopholes that are actually being sanitized by power that be, the powers that be. Because the person will stand and say that if I have the money and you don't have the money, what is the problem? But now, we're not asking ourselves, where did that money come from? Yes, we have the IGG, we have the Financial Independence Investigation Authority, and all these anti-corruption court audits. There is actually a framework.
Yes.
There is a structure that, if we wanted to answer your question, Ankunda, that are we just going to sit and watch? No. We can actually start by asking the institutions that are already in place, that are constitutionally mandated to respond to that question. Where mujawa sente mutubulire. There is a mechanism.
Yes.
There is a system that we pay for. So we're not asking questions. This is not rocket science. Okay?
Yeah.
So for the young people, the moral of the story is, they say if you can't beat them, join them. But how do we join them? We don't join them with a copy and paste of what they're doing. We join them with a fresh narrative that is going to offer sustainable ideas to propel our livelihoods as the young people, but also transform our communities into the nation that we want to be, so that we don't have to have our girls go abroad to work as maids in a country that is blessed than Uganda. Uganda.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emanzi, for that. I don't know how our time runs very fast, but I'm going to be getting our parting shots, and please, we can keep it less than 2 minutes. It will be good. So I'll start it off with you, Bossa. In less than 2 minutes, what must be done?
I think as young people, there's a game that I usually play. It's, no, not actually a game. There is this fantasy Premier League thing as a form of solution. You see, when you're joining that thing and you have to buy players, you're limited to a certain amount of money,
Yes.
which is, I think, around 100 million.
100 million pounds.
So I think if, as a way forward for this whole solution, because Mazi has mentioned that there are laws, there are agencies that are dealing with these things, but practically it's impossible. For me, as a form of moving forward, would introduce, let's say, in the National Youth Council election, and say, this is the amount of money that you're not allowed to exceed or spend in this particular election. Let us say 50 million is the maximum every candidate should spend. Once you're caught spending more than that, accountability reports and so, you're automatically disqualified. I think for me that levels the playing field, and it also realigns the interests of the players to focus on promising civic duty, service delivery, and go away from the position of having to accumulate money, focus on where do I get money. So as young people, I want to tell you that commercialization of politics is not only a problem of the state or the government or the ruling party. It is also a problem of the opposition. I have done it before. I have seen many elections that are happening in this particular manner. And for me, it clouds the judgment of not only, it makes the voters give up that, no, me already benefited from this from this election, from this particular candidate. What else do I hope to benefit? But
Yes.
also the candidate will know that at the end of the day, I gave those voters what they wanted. Now, what do they want from me? And it also pushes the candidate to start looking for money in their tenure or start planning for the next election to see how they find more money to run that particular election. So, as a form of advice, let us avoid. Let us find ways of. It's a collective effort on the part of the voters to stop requesting for money from candidates, but also the state should find practical measures as a way of moving forward. Ankuna has already mentioned how did we get to this. We do not want to be a part of this. I'm not running in an election right now because I don't have money, but I'll bet I'm one of the most, some of the most capable candidates to represent my people. So
interesting,
yeah,
interesting.
thank you so much.
Before I get to your parting shots, Ankunda, we also have some people who are able to send in their messages via WhatsApp, and this is Kato Lawrence, who is from Makerere University, and he says that commercialization of politics breeds corruption and patronage, where political influence is often bought rather than earned through merit. It undermines democratic processes by prioritizing financial power over public service, weakening institutions and public trust. Furthermore, it exacerbates inequality by sidelining less wealthy candidates and citizens from meaningful participation. And also, the second one says that I should first thank you for the presentation of a vibrant topic for today. Implications of commercialization of politics. Is money becoming merit in politics? The future of elections in a money-driven system. This is Sally Gerard from the former GRC School of Long Life Learning from Makerere University. And he says that, first of all, commercialization of politics today's leads, one, to eliminate or the elimination of fresh ideological, capable, and knowledgeable leaders who do not have finances to support the bribing of voters. And then also limitations to expression in political positions due to fear of being unable to buy voters. So all this leads to politics being driven by money. I'm not saying that one shouldn't have money, but it is too much for the youth to engage in politics today, more especially to the ones that do not have connections of good background. Thank you so much, Jared, and thank you so much, Kato, for joining us via WhatsApp. Ankunda, your parting shots, please, in maybe a minute or less than 2 minutes.
Oh, amazing. That's very limited time. As an enthusiastic youth, I would love to have a very long,
Yes.
message to my fellow people. There is a statement that is running in my mind. I think I read it somewhere that if you have not participated, you do not have the mandate to seek accountability. And I feel like it so much resonates with this that we are discussing. See, it has become a habit that we have mastered the art of pointing fingers at what is not right, pointing fingers. And there is a lot of hypocrisy happening in leadership spaces recently. So I just want to say my mind out very loud. If only us as youths realized that the future of any nation, Uganda aside, any nation, is so much on shaky ground. If the youth of that nation are not very serious, then we would open our eyes and start doing the work that needs to be done.
Yes.
Until the youths of this nation realize that it is on them that the future of this beautiful nation actually stands, we are likely to have a foggy future, to suffer so much than actually what we are suffering today. So I would urge most of us, the youths, to do away with the hypocrisy. See, we know how to point fingers, yet under the tables, we are feeding off what we are criticizing. So if only we become true to ourselves and we decided that, you know, let us do away with this, enough of this. And we purpose to only chase after that. I think that Uganda in like the next 50 years would be a very beautiful place to live in. So it is a call towards honesty, towards realization that hypocrisy is actually not the way to go for us, the youths, and taking up the mantra, because I believe that if it is done collectively with a collective purpose, there is nothing under this world that can't be achieved. And until we realize our space and our role in nation building as youths, then there is so much that is at stake for this nation, our beautiful nation, Uganda.
Interesting, interesting. Thank you so much, Ankunda,
You're
for
very
that brilliant conclusion. Emanzi, please, less than 1.5 minutes.
I'm very optimistic that the future of Africa is bright. With the galvanized minds of the young people across board, regardless of what political affiliation we subscribe to. But that won't come like manna fell from heaven. Mm-hmm. There has to be a lot of groundwork, a lot of hard work. Yeah. We have to burn the midnight oil. And I always encourage young people, we don't antagonize, we organize.
Yes.
Young people, we read, we build our knowledge base because it's a knowledge economy. Those people that use the youth, use them because of the numbers, not because of the critical mass, because of the knowledge-based group. So young people, let's read so hard, wide, compound our knowledge base, protect ourselves from HIV and AIDS, participate in the money economy, be disciplined, fear God. We shall change Africa. I say this for God and my country.
Thank you so much, Emanzi. You say that for God and your country. And of course, you have been listening into Youth of Purpose right here at U24. Been having Emanzi Mugisha, who is a Pan-Africanist. We've equally been having Ankunda Harriet, who is a GRC from Makerere University. We've also been having Bosa Price, who is a lawyer. And the conversation has been around youth participation, but particularly the challenges that they face with commercialization of politics and the political patronage. A few take-homes is that the young people must know that power to change things lies within their hands. If you get stuck in the person who is supporting you, then most likely you're doing it at the detriment of others. Another take-home is from Ankunda, who emphasizes at what point did we get to this? Because if we do not question what point we got to this, if we lavish in the products or in the producers of those who have actually had to work for their money, then what lies ahead for us as young people? So we do call upon all of you young people to actually fight against commercialization of politics and ensure that you are not a victim to political patronage that continues to block and even stab you outside your real and participation. And of course, we want to thank the team that has been on production that always makes this happen. It has been Ankunda Cheslin hosting. This happens every Wednesday at 9 p.m. See you next time, same place.
Youth of Purpose. Youth of Purpose.
Hi, my name is Doreen Tuhidire, coming to you from Be Money Wiser, and we're going to be bringing to you the heart.